Okay, this is quiz A. If you look at the top right here, it should say A on your quiz. If it says B, please go to the other video. This is difference of squares. So when we do difference of squares, first thing we need to check for is we need to check to see if that there is subtraction. So if you look at number 1, we definitely have subtraction right here. So we know that that's good. The next thing we need to look for is that we have 2 terms. And we do have 2 terms. There's our 2 terms. We're good to go. They're separated by a subtraction sign. And then third, we need to look to see if our numbers, 25 and 64, are perfect squares. They are perfect squares, so we know that this is definitely a difference of squares problem. So when we do difference of squares, we need to put in our 2 parentheses. So when we put those in, we're good to go. We look at 25x squared and we take the square root. The square root of 25 is 5. So we put that in the first slot on both. And then if we look at the x squared, the square root, if we were to take the square root of x squared, the square root and the square cancel each other out, so we're left with x. So we would have 5x for the first term in each parentheses. Next, we would take the square root of the second term. The square root of 64 is 8. So that is the second part of each parenthesis. And then each answer will get a plus and one will get a minus. So you should have opposite signs for that answer. And that is your final answer for number 1. Number 2, again, same thing. We have subtraction, we have 2 terms, and we have both numbers that are perfect squares. When you don't see a number in front of x squared, we assume 1. So there is a 1 there, and that is a perfect square. So again, 2 parentheses, we take the square root of x squared, which is x, take the square root of 121, which is 11. One of them will be positive, one of them will be negative. And that's our answer for number 2. Number 3, we look at 2 terms. We have 2 terms. We have both numbers 16 and 1 are perfect squares. The issue with this problem is that we have a plus sign. When we have a plus sign, we know that is not difference of squares. We cannot do difference of squares with this problem, so we call that prime. Last, for number 4, we have 2 terms, we have subtraction. The third thing is that we do not have perfect square numbers. So what we do is we go and we fall back on GCF. If you look at 18 and you look at 8, those both have a GCF of 2. So we can divide by 2. When we divide by 2, we get a 9x squared minus 4. All I did here is I did 18 divided by 2 is 9, negative 8 divided by 2 is 4. I kept my x squared with the 9. Now, sometimes we stop here, but sometimes we can go further. If you look at your numbers on the inside, your 9 and your 4 are perfect squares. That lets us know that we can now do difference of squares on the inside because we have 2 terms, we have subtraction, and we have perfect square numbers. So the square root of 9x squared is 3x, and the square root of 4 is 2, plus minus. Do not forget to keep that 2 right out front. Okay, that is part of your answer. You have to have that 2 there. And that is your final answer for number 4.